relatively about what are the topics that needs to study on our own before going for the examinations of this MB-240 here. And also we're going to discuss about some sort of basic questions that how which kind of questions are going to be present over there, and also what are the variants of the questions that can be shown inside the examination portal. So let's just quickly start this session now. Also, one more thing, guys, before starting the sessions, if you guys wanted to register for our free upcoming webinars or other exam prep sessions on a free note, so you can visit our website here, that is gtechlearn.com/webinar.aspx. And over there, you will find all the upcoming webinar list, and also you can start registering them without giving any kind of cost. So all of them are going to be free. You can also scan this QR code from your mobile and you can start working for it. Let's start with this session now. So if we'll talk about the certification journey, like how can we actually reach out this MB-240 certification page, what specific journey we need to cover up. So initially, the first thing, the prerequisites we are having for completing this certification is that guys, specific persons needs to have some information about the Dynamics 365 fundamental CRMs. We need to have the information about the fundamentals of the Dynamics and also to have some working experience with the Dynamics area. And relatively for the same, you can reach out one another course called MB-910 that will give you a overview about the Dynamics area. So you can go through with that examination first, and then we'll come back to this 240. Other than that, we also need to have some basic understanding about the Power Platform fundamentals here, in which relatively for the Power Platform, how the model-driven apps and the Canvas apps are working, we need to know about those basic concepts. Also about some data words, how the tables are creating, relationships are working, logics and validations are applies, and the other things. When we'll talk about that from where we can start getting the training for this certification itself relatively for MB-240. So for that one, you can attain some Microsoft trainings. So there is going to be a self-paced online training available onto the Microsoft Learn portal. You can go through to the Microsoft Learn. You can find out the free content over there for each and every topics, whatever it is presents, and accordingly you can start learning on your own. You didn't require any of the person to go ahead and teach you. The second thing is that you can also use the second method for attending the things via instructor-led training. So there are going to be some Microsoft hosted orientated instructor-led trainings are going to be available. And those trainings will going to be available for the same course called MB-240 Microsoft Dynamics 365 Field Service Functional Consultant. So we can also attend that paid trainings here. So both the options are available. Once we'll complete the training, whether we have completed it via self-paced study or via instructor-led, what kind of experience we're going to have it after completing that training. So you guys will going to have the understanding about how to configure the field service applications for your own environment, how to go ahead and manage the work orders, scheduling the work orders, and dispatching the work orders. So all the aspects of the work orders, you can actually go and have the experience about them. You can also be able to manage the Dynamics 365 field service mobile application, where you can see how to configure the mobile field service app and also how to make a change inside that what kind of interface I wanted to show to my field service engineers and so on. Apart from this, you guys will also going to have some experience relatively for managing the inventory and purchasing, working with this same MB-240 course. So you will be able to see how the inventory thing will working, how can we create the products, how can we create the customer assets, how can we create the hierarchies, how can we create the functional things, how can we make the inventory adjustments, how can we transfer the inventory from one warehouse to another, and some additional options. Also we'll be able to manage the purchase things, like if we wanted to purchase some sort of products from the different vendors itself, so how can we create the purchase requisitions for that, and so on. Other than that, we're also going to have the customer experiences present. So you will be able to manage the customer experiences also while working with the MB-240. So it will going to give you some overview that how you can manage the customers aspects on your own. So these are some experiences which you will got after completing the specific course itself. Talking about the training, so we have done the training. Now when we'll come back to the examinations here, so for completing the examinations you can go for some self-study resources itself, where the resources are going to be available for free study guide on the Microsoft Learn. Also some topics are going to be mentioned on the Microsoft Docs. Also you guys are going to have some hands-on lab presents relatively using the GitHub links itself. So you can follow the GitHub link, and over to that, the exercises steps are going to be written. Based on following those steps, you can actually complete your things and so on. You can also go and utilize some Microsoft official practice test, which is available in the Microsoft Learn. So these are some self-study resources are available before going towards the examinations after completing the training. So you can use them as your resource, and then you can go through with the examination. The next thing is that if we'll talk about the examinations, so once you have gone through with the examinations, you have completed the examinations, then you will earn the certificate for Microsoft certified examination completion for MB-240, relatively for Dynamics 365 field service functional consultant. So this is a specific journey. How can we start it from the basics and complete our certifications against this course? Talking about some objective domains, that from which kind of domain, how much of questions can we expect onto our examinations. So inside the field service app, we're going to have a different domains. The very first is configuring the field service application. So whenever we are talking about configuring some field service application, so it will always going to be applicable for those scenarios where uh, you guys are going to create some sort of map configurations in the field service, also the configuring some territories and so on, products related things, hierarchies of the product, inventory types product, non-inventory types products. So based on this domain, you can expect approximately of 20 to 25% of questions in your exam. Other than that, the next domain which we are having is managing the work order. So whenever we are saying that we wanted to create some work order, whether it's by manual method or by automated way, and also to manage them, how to add the resources, products, services we are offering, and so on. So relatively for that domain, you can get up to 25% of questions on your exam itself. After that domain, we are having another one talking about scheduling and dispatching the work order. So based on this domain, like how can we schedule a work order, how can we dispatch a work order to the field service technician to go to that customer location for completing it. Relatively from this domain also, you can get up to 25% of questions in your exam. Talking about managing the Dynamics 365 field service mobile app, relatively from this domain, you can get up to 10% of questions in your examination. Then after, if we'll talk about managing some inventory and purchasing, so relatively from that domain, you can get up to 5% of questions in your exam. Then after, the next domain we are having it in the line is relatively for connected field service, as well as managing the customer assets. So from this area also, you can actually get a 10% of questions over there. Moving forward to that, we have another domain in line talking about implementing the Microsoft Power Platform with my Dynamics 365 environment. So based on this domain, you can get up to 10% of questions in your exam. Then after, we are having a last domain of this course talking about managing some customer experiences. So in this customer experiences, you can get up to 10% of questions in your exam respectively. So these are some domains, and according to those domains, how much of questions are we going to have it in here? So the same thing is written over there. Moving forward to that, if I'll talk about the exam, so in the exam, it will going to give you a 150 minutes of total time to complete the exam. Out of those 150 minutes, 30 minutes is going to be available to you for setting up your environment, also to complete the survey form, and to give some basic answers of some questions asking and the starting relatively for your work experience and topics knowledge and so on. So relatively for those things, you will get 30 minutes additional, but for actual exam, you will get 120 minutes to complete that. And between that 120 minutes of exam, you can get approximately of 40 to 60 questions in your exam. It will always going to be vary. It doesn't have the exact number of amount of questions is present. It always going to be varied dependently. Out of these 40 to 60 questions, you will get different types of questions to be appear. The first category of question is going to be for study guide. Like the exam will going to give you some sort of case study. You just need to read out the case study, and based on that case study, they will going to ask you about 4 to 5 question to answer, and all those 4 to 5 questions are going to be associated with that same case study which is given. And how many case studies can we expect in the exam? So we can expect 2 to 3 case study in the exam, and for each and every case study we can expect 4 to 5 questions in there. Then after, the second category of questions is going to be relatively for some solution based question, where the Microsoft will going to give you a question. Inside the question, the situation is going to be written, and also they will provide you the solution. So first of all, they will going to confirm you what is the situation, and based on that situation they will going to give you a solution, and then they are going to ask whether this solutions is the best fit for the current situation or not, and you need to answer it as a true or false. So these kind of questions will going to have in the examinations of about 7 to 8 questions, which will going to have covered 2 or 3 different situations in that. Based on the same situations, you can get 2 or 3 questions for it. But in this category, if you are answering the question, so you cannot go back after answering any of the questions over there. Like once you have selected that this solution is the best fit for this situation and the answer is true, maybe in the next question the same situation is written but the solution is going to be different, and you will realize after reading that I have selected the previous one as a wrong answer. So in that situations, you cannot go back to change that thing. So in this category of questions, we always need to make sure what option am I selecting. Then the third kind of questions we're going to have in the examination is for match related things, like matching the steps. So here one sided the situation is going to be written, one side the solution is going to be written, and you need to match which problem is going to solved by which solution. Same way, sometimes they will going to ask you about the tools and the working of the tools, and same way maybe they will give you the same matching questions on any other basis. Apart from the matching types questions, you will also get some questions about the steps to be written. Let's suppose that inside this field service app, we are able to create the work orders. So for creating the work order, there is going to be a kind of a process which we need to follow, the kind of steps which we need to follow to complete it, right? So what Microsoft will do, they will going to put up a question that how can we create a work order, and then they will going to provide the solution that first of all go to the field service app, then click on the create button of the work order, then click on the save and close button, and then other ones. So they will going to give you the steps. You need to rearrange the step in a correct order, that which steps we need to follow first, which step we need to follow second, and the same way till the last. So you need to rearrange the steps in there. So this is going to be a fourth category of questions which can be appear in the examination. The next type of question is going to be for multiple choice. So in the multiple choice, might be there are some questions where you need to answer only one correct answer based on the question. Maybe sometimes you guys will going to answer two or three correct answers depending upon the questions asked by the Microsoft. So these ones are going to be a different types of questions in there, and that's how the questions are coming. Apart from them, if we'll talk about how much do we required to pass out the examination, so we will required approximately of 700 numbers, a minimum one, to pass out the examination. Overall the examination will going to contain 1,000 numbers itself, out of which we need to get 700 numbers for passing. If we are getting the 699 number and we are sorting with one number, still will be considered as a fail. So, and the third thing is we always need to answer each and every question asked in the examination area. And this is how the specific thing will going to be look like on the top side of your examination window. On the left hand side, you will find out that you are answering the question number, whatever it is, whether it is 8 or 1 or 2. And then in the bracket, it's going to show you that under this category of questions, overall questions are available as 9, 10, 11, or 20 or 30, out of which you are currently on question number 8 and you are answering it. On the right hand side, it will always going to show you about the specific time that is actually present for completing this exam, that how much of time currently remaining. So this is the window which is going to be shown. Now let's start discussing about some exam prep scenarios, that what topics that are important to cover before going towards the exam, and also what types of questions we are going to have it. So let's start the sessions. But before starting the sessions, let's just have a quick intro in here. So myself, Shivam Shukla, and I'm a Microsoft certified trainer currently working with the GTechLearn Private Limited. I'm working as a solution architect with the GTechLearn Private Limited, and I have overall 10 plus years of experience in this IT industry. Initially, I started my career as a business analyst working with the Microsoft Excel technologies in one of the Indian-based company itself. Slowly and gradually, I have upgraded myself and learned the different types of technologies of the Microsoft itself, whether it's related to the Microsoft Azure, project servers, Dynamics area, Power Platform, security domains, and so on. Then if I'll talk about my certifications, so I'm certified with 15 plus certifications in the global way from the Microsoft itself, and under which I can include my 8 plus certifications in the security domain, 5 plus certifications in the Dynamics area, 5 plus certifications in the Power Platform area, 4 plus certification in my Azure infrastructure side, and the other ones. If we'll talk about my time consuming, so 60% of my time is goes for the training industries, where I'm providing the trainings to the multiple end users who are already working with the different IT companies in here on a different roles in a different technologies. And apart from that 60% of time, the rest of the 40% of time is going for the consulting area, where I'm providing the consulting for the existing customer we are having in the GTech, as well as towards some third-party companies as well, whenever it's needed. So this is a kind of a brief introduction about myself, that who am I and what I'm doing right away. Now let's go ahead and start this session officially. So let's discuss some basic topics that are going to be useful whenever we are going to prepare for this exam called MB-240 here. So the first thing we need to understand while working with the field service application is that what kind of security roles are going to be available on a default node that needs to be assigned to the respective users for providing a different kind of accessibility of the app. So there are going to be the 5 different types of security roles in here. The very first security role is field service administrator. This role will going to have the full capability and full authorization to manage and to create every aspects of your environment, of your application called field service, whether talking about work orders, talking about customer detail, talking about IoT thing, talking about analytics, talking about resource booking, talking about bookable resource, organization unit, and some additional option. So the administrator will going to have the full rights for it. So it is a very higher role. Then after, we're going to have another role called field service dispatcher. So this role should be assigned to those users who are working in my industry, just to make sure that which work order needs to assign to which of the resource. So whenever we wanted to complete that kind of work, in that scenario, I need to associate that person with this role called field service dispatcher. The third type of role we are going to have in this field service area is field service inventory purchase. So whenever I'm saying that in my environment, I want some user to manage my inventory thing, where they need to take care about my products, what we are using, they need to complete the adjustments of the product, and also they need to create some purchase requisitions whenever it is required, and so on. So in that situation, we need to assign that person this inventory purchase role itself. The next one role which we are having in this line is field service resource role. So the field service resource role is needs to be provided to those users to whom we want that they can access the data, but they cannot make any kind of change. And also to my field service technicians, because once they are going to utilize the field service mobile app for checking how many work orders are associated with them, so for giving them the information, I would need to associate this role to those users. Then after, we are going to have another role in the line that is known as the field service salesperson. So this role needs to be associated to my sales team users, who needs to check that what kind of service we can offer depending upon this field service area, in which territory we can make the sale, about what kind of products, and so on. So they can get the informations from my field service app. So if I'm having the sales team available and to them I wanted to provide the access of the field service to check out those things, we need to assign this a specific role in here. And let's see the same thing, that how can we associate this specific role to the respective persons which I'm having in my current environment. So the purpose of showing the demonstration is to understand what steps are we following to achieve that goal, because in the examination sometimes the Microsoft asking some steps also, and they are not saying that they are going to ask the steps from number 1 to number last. They can skip some of the steps, and other than that they can ask to arrange the steps accordingly. So let me just quickly open the portal in here. I'm going to open my admin.powerplatform.com, because whenever we wanted to access the field service app, we need to go this specific URL called admin.powerplatform.microsoft.com in here. So let me quickly open this platform. After coming to the Power Platform Admin Center, we just need to select the environment, and we need to select our respective environment in which my field service application is already installed. So I'm going to select my specific environment. Let's suppose I'm having one of the environment here known as MB-240. I'm going to open this one. And how many types of environment can we have in the Power Platform area? So we can have 4 types of environment. The very first is going to be the developer environment, which will basically going to be used by my developers for developing any kind of new resource. The second type of environment is going to be the sandbox one, where they can actually go and make some testing relatively for the new developed applications and so on. The third type of environment we can create is depending upon my trial basis, where I can start trialing my products, what has been developed by my developers. And the fourth type of environment we can create is a production environment, where we are going to have those solutions to be present which are currently running on my real-time environment. So these types of environments can be present. So let me just quickly click on the open button again. So after opening your environment, you need to click on this open button from the command line, so that your environment is going to be open. And which kind of window is going to be open? So it's going to open you this kind of window here, in which we need to select the respective app where I need to start working. So I would say, because we need to start working with the field service, so I'm going to select my field service app in here, and then your field service app is going to be open. Now we were talking about associating some sort of roles. So for the role association, we need to come to the Power Platform Admin Center itself. And from the environments area, we need to go to the settings. From the settings area, we need to select the user and permission. Then we need to go for selecting the user. And then we need to see how many users am I having who's having the specific permission of accessing this environment here. So right away, on my side, I'm having two different users who have the access of this environment. The very first is Dev Kumar, the second one is Kuldeep Singh. Let's suppose I'm saying that to Kuldeep Singh, I wanted to associate the role of field service administrator. So how can we do that? I just need to click on the name of that user who is already a part of this environment. Then after, I just need to go for manage roles. From the manage roles button, I can select the role which I need to associate. Let's suppose I wanted to associate the field service administrator. So I'm going to select the role and I'm going to click on the save button. And that is how we can actually add a respective role to the respective user, whatever the user I'm having in this environment area. So which step we need to follow? So first of all, we need to come to this admin.powerplatform.microsoft.com portal. Either I can go for writing down the full name, either I can utilize a short URL called ak.ms/ppac for Power Platform Admin Center, and then we'll reach out this location. We need to make a login. After that, we need to select the respective environment where I need to associate that role. After selecting the environment, we need to go to the settings area. So let me click on the settings. From the settings area, we need to go for user and permission area. And then we need to select the respective user. And then we need to select the respective user to whom I wanted to assign a role. And then from the list of this area summary button, we need to click on the manage roles. And then from the list of these roles, we need to select whatever role I wanted to associate to that person. So I would like to associate a dispatcher role and inventory purchase and salesperson. So I can associate all those roles in here, and I can hit on the save button to complete it. So this is the full step to associate any kind of roles over to my users. Now let's come back to the PowerPoint slide again. So we just saw how can we add the role to the respective persons, and we understand what are the different roles are going to be available and which role is going to be utilized for which kind of perspectives. The next thing we are having in the line, which is most important thing, is relatively for territories. So territories is going to be a most important part. Maybe sometimes in the case study, they will going to confirm you that the company will going to have a multiple territories in which they are supplying the services, and according to one of their territories, the specific customer is facing a problem, so they wanted to create a work order for it. So what are the things we need to select? So this kind of questions can be covered up. So what is territory? Territory is going to be a kind of a dividation of my geographical area. Like I'm having a geographical area like US or maybe India. So these are the countries. We know that these are the countries, and the countries, inside the countries, if I wanted to divide it into a smaller parts, so we can create the territories for it. I can go for creating some territories, like first of all, India territory that will notate my India country itself. Then I can create four territories inside my that India territory, talking about east, west, north, south, for defining the specific directions. Then underneath that, we can also define some territories based on my states and the cities, so that we can actually get the correct information that where the customer is facing the correct issues onto our side. So where we need to send the respective person. Territories will also going to help us to understand that how many resources I'm having, whether it's my technician, whether it's my field service engineer, whether it's my any other person, and which of my person is working at which place, so that we can easily get the same information available every time whenever we are going to create a work order for it. So it will help me to divide my geographical area into the physical locations. Also, we can associate the same territory towards my service account itself. In the account sections, we will find the service territory available. We need to select in which area the service needs to be delivered. From the work order table, we can go for selecting the same territory resources that is going to be matched by my account detail itself. And also we can associate that which of my technician is actually working with which of the field in here. So they can also use the same thing inside the resource area. If we'll discuss that how can we actually create these territories and so on. So for creating them, I can come back to my field service application, and for creating the territories, we just need to come to the steps here in the area called settings. So right away we are in the service area. We just need to change the area to the settings. Then from the settings area, we need to come to the general group, and in the general group, we will find this territories option available. So we just need to select this territories option from this list. And then from here, we can create some territories. By default, there are going to be some pre-created territories are going to be available always. If you wanted to create your own, you can actually go for creating a new territory. Let's suppose it's going to be India territory, which I'm creating. Then let me go for clicking on this save and close. Under the India territory, I would like to create some four different territories like India East, India West, India South, India North. So I can also do that. I can go for new button again. I can specify the name, that is India North. And in the parent territory, because I need to create it under my India territory, so in the parent one, I can select the respective territory itself under which I need to create it. We can click on this save and close button again. The same way I can create for some other also. So let me call another territory which I wanted to create for my west location. I can specify my India location in here. So we have created the west and the north. We'll need to create east and south now. So I'm going to specify my India east, selecting my India location, going for save and close. And same way I can create another territory in here, talking about India South under the India territory itself, and I can make a save and close. Now, if we'll talk about once we have the territory, how can we actually associate these territories with one of my account information? Like if I'm having the customer detail available, how can we associate these territories to them? So for doing so, we just need to come to the area called service. And then from the customer group, we need to select the respective entity information where my customer detail is available, whether it is my accounts table where I'm having the data, whether it's my contacts. I would say I'm having one of my account information. I'm going to select the account, and in the account, we're going to have one of the account information available called Contoso or maybe GTech. So let's suppose I'm going to create another account information right away. I would say this one is for IBM. So IBM is one of my client itself who is working with us. I'm selecting the IBM location. Now I just need to click on the save button. How can we associate a territory here? So for doing so, we just need to come to the details area, and from the details area, we can select the service territory for it. So I can come to the detail area, and in the detail area, we can select the industry type, what is belong to. We can also select the shipping methods and so on. Let's talk about the territory. So here in the servicing, we can select the service territory in which this specific company is working. So I would say they are working with India South locations, and I need to provide the service in the India South every time whenever our new work order is going to be created by this account entity, this called IBM. And once I have selected the service territory, I can click on the save and close button, and that is how the territory can be associated. The same thing can be utilized under the work order as well as under the resources. So how can we actually decide those things in the work order and the resources? So let's have a look. So if I'll say I wanted to associate a territory in my work order, so I'm coming to the work order list, and from here I'm going to open one of my work order, and inside that one I can associate the specific territory where the work order needs to be completed. So I'm going to open this. Then here we can create the work orders. In the settings area, we can select the territories itself, what is going to be the service territory. So every time I'm creating a work order, and if I do want it to go for the service territory to be selected, I can come here and select the thing same in the settings tab. The next thing we were talking about is how can we select the territories for the resources. So for selecting the territories for the resources, we need to come to the resource entity. We need to open one of the resource, and inside that resource form, we can select the territory itself. So that is something we are having related to the territory. The next thing we are having in the line is relatively for organizational unit. So what is an organizational unit? It is going to be known as the physical location for my customer's building. Let's suppose that I'm having one of my customer called IBM, that I'm working with the IBM company, but there is going to be some sort of physical location where IBM is operating, whether it is in Mumbai, whether it is in Delhi, whether it is in NY in the New York, USA, or maybe in any other uh, country itself. So every time buildings are going to be present in a different locations. So whenever we wanted to create a record where I can have their physical location available, so we can store them in this organizational unit so that we can have the exact locations of their building. We can utilize this organizational unit also to associate that if I'm having one of the office of the IBM in the Mumbai location, so which of my resource is going to attend all calls that has been made for IBM relatively for their Mumbai location. So whether I'm going to have one of my employee called Dave who is going to attend all those calls, or is it going to be the Kuldeep and so on. So we can easily decide. We can also dedicate a person as well with the respectively organizational unit, that which of my person is going to work with which of my organizational unit. So each and everything can be decided. While creating the organizational unit, we just need to ensure one thing, that what is my latitude and longitude to get my correct information about those area. So how can we create the organizational units? Let's have a look about that one also. So for working with that, let me open my environment, and in my environment area, I would say I wanted to create a new organizational unit. So for creating them, I just need to change my area to the settings. From the settings area, I just need to come to downwards here. And here in the general group, we will find this territory option. Sorry, the organizational option will going to be present below our territories. So you can actually find out this organizational unit in here, and then you can decide what is going to be my organizational unit, which I do wanted to create. I would say we have created one of the IBM account right away. So let me create some organizational unit for it. I would say it's IBM's Mumbai branch. Here in the descriptions, I can define what we are doing in that branch, what they are working with, what is going to be the currency in which we are dealing with that specific person. So I can specify the currency also. Let me go and select the currency. Now in the scheduling area, we do need to specify some longitude and latitude. So I would say the latitude is going to be this one, and the longitude which I wanted to use is this one. So this is my specific physical location of my organizational unit. Once we have created it, I can click on the save and close button, and that's how my organizational unit can be created. So this is the one thing we are having. Same way, if I'll talk about creating some inventory area, so we can also go and do the same thing. Now let's move ahead again. After the organizational unit, we are having some option available for product and service pricing. So in the field service app, we can always go and create our own price list depending upon the different products we are dealing with, depending upon the different customers we are having, or depending upon the different geographical area we are working on. So we can create the specific price list based on my product or based on the services we are offering in those locations. So what kind of features we can add in which kind of price list? So whenever we are creating a price list for my products itself, so in the products area, we can use a feature called specific amount for a product. So we can decide what is the specific amount. Let's suppose I'm selling a laptop and I'm saying the price of the laptop is $500. So this is my specific amount, which I wanted to call it. Then after, we can use one another feature for my product type of price list, talking about markup of cost. So I can decide what is the percentage of markup of cost. I would say it's going to be the 2%. Same way, what is the margin of cost? It's again going to be 2%. And what is the margin of price itself? So it's going to be 1%. So we can decide these things in the product price list. Once we are creating the service price list, in that situations, we can utilize a lots of features here. The very first thing is a specific amount. The second thing is what is minimum charge amount, what is minimum charge duration, what is flat fee, what is the percentage of markup of price, what is the percentage of markup of cost, markup margin of the price, and margin of the cost. So these are some features we can enable, and we can actually categorize it under each and every price list we are creating in my Dynamics 365 field service application. So that is also one thing we need to understand about the price list here. And we do need to have some knowledge what kind of price lists are available on a default node, and how can we associate a price list with the respective organizational itself. So whenever I would say I wanted to associate one of the price list with one of my customer I'm creating, so I can actually do that. For doing so, I can come to the service area. I can go to my customers detail to which I'm dealing with. I can open my specific customer information, and here in this customer specific information, we can go and select the product price list itself, which kind of product price list I'm going to utilize for this IBM. However, if you wanted to use a default price list, you can select the default price list from the respective list itself. What if I'd say that I wanted to create some custom price list for my this IBM account? So for creating the custom price list, you can actually click on this new price list button, and here the new price list quick create form is going to be open. We can specify the name of the price list. I would say it's IBM price list for Mumbai location. Then the descriptions can be defined. what is going to be the start date? That means from which date this specific price list is going to be working as a effective node in my organization. So I can decide that date. I'll say it's going to be from today. What is going to be the end date? So I can decide the end date also. If you do not want to configure the end date, you can leave it as a blank. Let me go for save and close now. And my price list has been ready. Once I have my price list ready, I can actually associate this price list here with my account. If you wanted to make some additional changes in it, so you can come back to your price list area where you can specify a lots of options, like what is going to be the time unit, what is going to be the role prices, what is going to be the role price markup, category of the prices, which items are going to be coming under this price list itself, what is going to be the territory relationship itself, and the other things. Let me go for save and close here. And let me go for save and close again after associating a price list with my account. So every time I'm going to create a new work order for that account, the same price list will going to be automatically populated, whatever we have created and associated with that account. So that is something we are having with the price list area. Now the next thing we are having in the line is relatively for bookable resource. So the bookable resource is also going to be an option relatively which for we need to study. So the bookable resource will going to represent the information about some peoples, some facilities, some equipments which can be utilized for book any kind of schedule relatively against a work order or against a case. So whenever we wanted to know that which of the person is available for booking on what conditions, we can create those users informations under this bookable resource area itself. So what kind of things we can add it in here? So we can actually create a bookable resource based on my users detail. In the users details, it's going to show us the detail about my existing participants what I'm having, or let's suppose my existing account holders what I'm having in my current organization, whatever my team members are. So if I wanted to add those team members as a bookable resource for my environment, I can utilize the user options for it. If I would say that one of my vendor is working with us to provide me engineers for service activities and so on, and because that specific account is working, the customer is working as a vendor to us, so obviously we have created the account record for them. So if I wanted to create a bookable resource against them, we can utilize the account option in that manner. So we need to select the account option, and then we need to select the respective company's name, who is going to give me that specific employee what we need to complete the service activity. The next one is, if we are having some of the freelance engineers with us who is going to work on a contractual basis, so we can create their records into the contact area, and using the contact entity, we can create some bookable resource in here. Same way, if I'm saying that we are going to have some equipments that are stored in my company warehouses that can be utilized for the service activity. Let's suppose that I'm planning for one of the service activity of oil change service, or maybe the truck repair service. So for the truck repair or the specific oil change service, we do require some sort of tools to complete it, to achieve that goal. So those tools are going to be available, and if I want that these tools can be utilized under the booking, so we need to create those tools as a equipment here in this bookable resource to book them within my work order scenario. The next option we can utilize under the bookable resource is the facilities. So the facilities will going to define me about the buildings as well as the base what we are having in the customer's location, so that we will understand that into the customer's physical building, on which floor, on which bay we need to deliver the service against which this work order is creating. So those things can be created using this facility option under the bookable resource. The next one is going to be a generic one. The generic option is going to be applicable for those scenarios where you wanted to create some custom things as a bookable resource. Let's suppose a custom thing like laptops, like maybe LAN testers and so on. So if you wanted to add them as a part of your bookable resource, in that scenario, you can create them under the generic category. Then after, we are going to have a kind of a pool category available. The pool category will going to help me to create a kind of a bookable resource for a kind of a pool where I can have multiple things to be integrate with each other. Like inside the pool, I can have some field technicians to be available. I can have some equipments to be available. I can have some facilities to be checked where the service needs to be delivered. So if I'm creating those kind of pools here, so I can utilize that pool also to create a bookable resource. And those pools can be very useful whenever we are uh, uh, actually dealing with a kind of a service activity. So if we have the pool available, we do not have to select the respective person one by one or in a different node. We can directly select the pool and everything is going to be selected automatically. The next thing is that we can also go for creating some crew as a bookable resource. Let's suppose I'm having one of my server administrator team, also my network technicians team, and I wanted to create all those teams as a bookable resource for some big project. So relatively for them, initially selecting them one by one, we can directly call a crew itself on my bookable resource, and then we can start utilizing it. Talking about how can we actually go for creating those kind of resources in here. So let's have a look about that. For creating a kind of a bookable resource, you need to come up to your application area, and from the application area, you can come to the service area, and then you need to select and change your area to the resource. Inside the resource, you will see that we are going to have a group called resource available. Under that resource group, we're going to have a resource, characteristics, categories, pay types, proficiency model, worker templates, requirement groups, and requirement status. All those options are going to be available. I am saying that I do wanted to create some specific resources now. So for creating the resources, we need to have those persons to be available either in my account entity, either in my contact entity, either in my users entity. So right away, I do not have any of the users or the contact person currently present. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create some contact first, and then we're going to create convert those contacts as a bookable resource with my organization. So I'm going to the contacts area, and let me quickly go for creating a new contact now. So I'm going with the new button here, and I'm going to select the name and the details of my contact. I would say my first contact is going to be the Kimberly Samuel, and the job title of that person is network technician. Account name under which this specific person is working, I can select the account name. If it's required, I can specify the email address itself. I can specify the phone numbers and other things. Let me just quickly go for creating this contact on our own. Same way, I'm going to create another account details now. Let me say it's going to be Aman Gupta. The job title is server administrator. Let me go for save and close. So I've created two contacts now, and now we are going to convert these two contacts into one of my bookable resource under my resource table. So I'm going to change my area to the resources first. Then I need to select the resource button, which will come under the resource group. From that area, I need to select this new button. And then after, we can specify what kind of resource is it going to be. whether it is going to be a user am I selecting, is it going to be a contact entity information, is it going to be a general basis, is it going to be a kind of a equipment or a contact or a queue or a facility or a pool. So I can decide the things. If I'm selecting the users, so it is going to display me the records of those internal users which I am having on my current organization. Right away, let me change it to the contact entity now. And once I'm going to select the contact entity, it is going to start displaying me the data of those users which we have just created here. So I'm going to select one of my user, and then I'm going to click on the save and close for creating it as a bookable resource button. So let me click on the save and close, and then we'll continue with the next user to be created as a bookable resource. But before creating another user as a bookable resource, we also need to add it some basic details relatively for my existing ones. So once I have created a bookable resource, we do need to define some additional information here. The very first thing, what kind of resource skill this person has. Same way, what kind of hourly rate he's going to charge, whether do we need to provide them a permission to take the time of approval or not, what is going to be the scheduling option against which location this specific person is going to be work, what is going to be the work hour for that person, and the other things. So I would say I'm coming to the project service area, and here I'm saying that because the Kimberly is a network technician, so I'm going to create a resource skill here that is very well versed with CCNA certification. So I'm going to create a new bookable resource, scheduling itself, the characteristics. I just need to create a new one. Let me go for creating a new characteristics now. I'm saying the characteristics name is CCNA certified, or it's CCNA certified. Description is it's a Cisco oriented certification, and it is a type of a skill, the certification he has. So it is a certification. Let me go for clicking on the save and close now. And now I'm going to select the specific skill name. I'm going to specify the value also, rating value, whether the person is proficient with this skill, or he's currently on an average note, or he's currently on a good note, and so on. So I can select those things in here. I would say that this person has excellent knowledge under this skill called CCNP. Once I have selected these informations, let me select the save and close now. Same way, just after when we are selecting a resource skill, same way you can also go for selecting additionally resource skill as well, whatever it is required. I would say that he's also very well versed with the AZ104 certification in here. And in the AZ104, he's an excellent communication over there. So same way, you can go for adding those skills and the certifications on your list. Apart from them, you can also define what kind of role for which this specific particular person is going to be available. I would say there are some roles like network technician, server administrator, or those types of things. So I can associate the name for it. I would say because he's a network technician, so I'm going to call it as a network technician here. Then in the resource category, we're going to find that resource category, whether it is available or not. So on my note, I'm having that category available. So I'm going to select my resource category. I'm going to select the save and close button. So this is how you can add the resource role also. Let me select it again. Okay, it's already assigned. So let me just go for refreshing that page. So in the project service, okay, so it's already assigned, but it will not showing in here. We'll let know. In the field service, I'll say that this person will going to charge approximately of $150 per hour, or 150 rupees per hour on a normal note. And he do require some approval for time off. Whenever he needs a time off, he do need to go for getting the approvals from his manager or from his team leader and so on. So I can decide those things. And in the characteristics, my both options are available. Resources role is already associated. In the scheduling area, I would say this person is only going to be work with my one of the territory called India South, where I'm having one of my account detail called IBM. So he's only going to work for the IBM now. So I can specify the start location as the organizational unit itself. And here I can decide which organizational unit I wanted to work. So I would say he's working with the IBM Mumbai branch, and I have selected that specific one also. Let me go for save and close. So under the bookable resource, many types of questions can become. Like the first type of question can be added in your exam is, can we associate a resource with a respective organization unit? So the answer is going to be yes, we can associate it. Can we associate a specific resource working as a based on their own locations? So yes, we can do that, because in the start location and the end location, we are always going to have the details available. Do we want it to work as a resource address? Do you want it to work as a location agnostics and so on? I would say yes. The resource is going to be work. The start location is going to be his own address. Same way the end location is going to be his own address. But he is going to work from one of my organizational unit called IBM Mumbai branch only. So this is the also one thing we can actually do that. But right away, I'm selecting it as the OU units in here. Let me go for saving that. After that, we can also go and change the work hours. We can decide what is going to be the shift of that person. So I can go and create a new work hours in here, create a time of request also. We can also change the current event. So I'm going to change the current event itself from the work hours area. Let me click on the all event in the series, and I can decide what is going to be the working day for that person, whether he's going to work on Sunday also, on Saturday also, or he's going to take off on Thursday and Friday. Maybe the person is working from Saturday to Wednesday. This is the 4 days, sorry, the 5 days when this resource is going to be work. Then what is going to be the shift? I would say the shift is going to be from morning 9 a.m. till evening 6 p.m. is going to be the shift. And I do wanted to add a break between it. So this is going to be the half hour of break that is going to be taken at 1:30 at 2 p.m. Same way, what is going to be the specific time period or the time zone under which this specific person is going to be work? So because I have associated this person to work with IBM Mumbai location, and in the Mumbai, we know it's going to be the IST time zone that needs to be selected. So I'm going to select the same time zone from here, that he's going to work on a IST time zone. And I do wanted to observe some business closure. So this is how you can actually go and decide a kind of a working hours to be created for them. Now, after that, let me just check one thing. Yeah, so it's done now. Thursday is the off. I would say, do you wanted to add this specific person in an omni channel? If you do wanted to add it, you can specify the omni channels for it. So that is how the specific resource can be created under your bookable resource area. So we have created one of them. Let me go for create another one as well. So this time I'm going to select a contact entity again, and I'm going to select my Aman Gupta this time. And the project service, let me quickly save it first, and then we're going to add some certifications, add some skills and the roles also. So I'm going to select some certification here. Let's suppose another certification he's having on his own, talking about AZ800. That is a kind of a server administrator course, and it's a kind of a certification that user has completed. So I'm going to select the specific certification also. I'm going to select the rating. I would say he's again the excellent one under this AZ800. I'm selecting that skill. Now I'm going to select another skill here. Apart from that one, he's also very well versed with this AZ801, AZ104, and he's having the excellent knowledge of it. So I'm selecting that knowledge also. And that is how we can add the skills. Let me select some roles. I would say the role name is going to be server administrator. So do we have that role available? If we do not have the respective role, we can create the resource category for it. Let me go for creating a new bookable resource category here. Let me click on OK. And here my bookable resource categories can be created. I would say it's going to be the server administrator category. Description should be anything. We can specify the billing is it's going to be a chargeable one. Let me go for save. What skills do we required under this? So I can specify the skills also. Let me quickly click on the save and close this time. Now I'm going to add the resource role again in here. I would say this person has a server administrator resource category completed. The role can be assigned. Let me call this role as server administrator again. Going to click on the save and close button. And now I can go to the field service app. I can decide what is going to be the hourly charge for that person. I would say he is going to charge 120 rupees per hour. Then what is the scheduling? I can specify he's again going to work with that same location called IBM Mumbai branch. Start and end locations will also going to be the same. Then what is going to be the work hour for that person? I can go and change the work hours here. Let's suppose this person will going to work from Monday to Friday at the same time zone at the same shift. So I'm going to select the shift here. Sorry, from morning 9 a.m. till evening 6 p.m. And between that, I wanted to provide a break off to that person also. I wanted to work that person on a IST time zone. Then I do wanted to observe some business closure here. So this is how we can actually decide the things, that how the things will going to be work. Once the work hours has been created, I can click on the save and close button. So this is how we can create some resource here, a bookable resource based on the account contact entity. Same way, if you wanted to create a bookable resource based on your account entity. So in that situation, you just need to select the account entity and you just need to select the respective account details, who is going to be work as a vendor for with you for providing you the resources. So here you can actually decide those things. Let me say I do not want to create it as of now. So this is something we are having against the bookable resource. Now the next thing we are having in that page is relatively for scheduling option. So what kind of options are available to schedule a work order with the respective engineers or respective field service technicians? So I would say we can have the three different types of scheduling can be done. The very first is we can do it on a manual note. We can do it on a semi-automated node. We can do it on a fully automated node. The manual node is something where I'm creating the work order on my manual basis. Sorry. Then I'm selecting the type of the resource we need on a manual node. Then from the scheduled board area, I'm going and selecting the respective resource who is going to work with that work order. So that step is going to be known as a manual. We can follow these ones. The second one talking about the semi-automated. So the semi-automated will going to utilize one button here, and the button name is going to be the find availability option. So it is going to use my schedule assistant scenario. Using the schedule assistant, it will going to find out the perfect resource which I am having in my environment to schedule it for my current work order against which we are searching. So let's suppose I have created one of the work order that I do need to provide a service of server maintenance onto the IBM's Mumbai location. And for completing that service, I required one of the person who will have the skill of server administrator available. So once I have defined those all the things, after that, once I'm going to click on this find availability button, and it's going to utilize the schedule assistant uh, tool itself, Then it is going to find under my resources that how many resources I have in the list. Let's suppose I'm having 30 resources. Out of those 30 resources, it's going to check how many of them are actually proficient with my server administrator role. So it's going to find out those things. First of all, it's going to filter the data. Let's suppose out of those 30, 4 of them are available who is proficient with the server administrator. So it's going to filter that person first. Then it is going to filter that when do I have scheduled that work order that needs to be completed. I would say we schedule that work order from today onwards, from today 5 p.m. till another day of maybe the 6 p.m. So between that time, which person is available? So out of those 4 persons which we got from the first filterization, let's suppose only one of them is free. So it is going to show me that person in the list, that one resource is available, and here is the specific time period when that person is available based on your need. So we need to select the respective person's time limit, and then we need to click on the book and exit to book the schedule. So this is the semi-automated thing can be done. The third option we can utilize is we can work with the RSO tool, that is resource scheduling optimization tool, which will help me to fully automate the same process. So what we'll need to do, we just need to create the work order. Each and everything is going to be taken care by the RSO. Every time I will create a work order, he will going to find out the better person, and he is going to book the schedule for that better person as an automated basis, whatever the available time for that person is present. So you do not have to intervene anything in this scheduling area if we are working with this RSO tool here. So these are some different ways we can actually go for the scheduling, and the same types of tools are mentioned here. That for manual process, we can utilize the schedule board. For semi-automated process, we can utilize the schedule assistant. For fully automated process, we can utilize the resource schedule optimization. Let's talk about how to work with all those concepts in the real-time section. So let's have a look here. I'm going towards my environment. If I would say I do wanted to book that specific schedule in here. So for booking the schedule, we just need to come to the settings area first, and we need to configure some sort of basic informations here. Once we have configured, I can go to the service area, and in the service area under the scheduling area, we will find one option called booking. So from the booking, I can create a new booking on my own. For creating a manual booking, I just need to click on the new button. I just need to specify this booking name. I would say it's for server maintenance. And the start time is going to be from tomorrow 10 a.m. from till 16th of November till 1 p.m. So this is the duration of my service that needs to be present. What is going to be the resource? Who is going to attend that server maintenance? I would say Aman Gupta is going to work under that service activity because he is very well versed with the server administrator. Then what is going to be the booking status? I would say the booking status is going to be the committed, because I'm going to book the Aman Gupta, then Aman Gupta will going to receive the notification and he needs to approve whether he will be able to deliver that service or not. So the first step needs to be selected while booking is committed. And the second step, once he will going to accept it, the booking is going to be changed the status to the completed. So right now I'm selecting the booking status as completed. In the resource requirement, we can also define what kind of resource we required against which of my work order. So I can select those things. Let's suppose I have created this booking. Let me save that as details now. So this is the first way of creating a manual scheduling by using this booking option. Now, the second way of doing the same thing is we can come to this scheduled board area. from the scheduled board area, we need to see about some open work orders or open requirements, and then we can use drag and drop button to schedule a service against a specific person which I'm having. So let's see the details. Let's suppose this is my specific board is available, the scheduled board. Here in the unscheduled work order, I can see the data, how many unscheduled work order I'm having. I would say that I'm having this 00512, a new unscheduled work order is available. I would say I wanted to associate this work order with my Ellison. So I can click on this drag and drop button and I can decide that it needs to be booked with that person here. So you can see for today's onwards, the work order has been booked for Aman Gupta. If I wanted to change it to the Allison, I can also do that. So this is a second way of creating a schedule. Now talking about the semi-automated. So how the semi-automated thing will going to be work? So I would say that if I'm having one of the scheduled work order present, that is my 00511, let's suppose against this work order, whatever the resource requirement or the resource details I have defined, I do wanted to find a available resource based on that conditions. So I can click on this find availability button and it is going to open me the schedule assistant, and over there it is going to show me if any of the resources available for working with it or not. If a resource is going to be available, that information is going to be listed here and you can select that resource and click on the book and exit. So this is also a one thing to using the semi-automated process. Now the third thing is resource scheduling optimization. So it is going to be a paid tool. We need to purchase that tool first and then we need to create some conditions and flows in that, and accordingly the RSO thing will going to be work in my environment. So right now, because I'm working with a demo environment, so I can't show you the demonstrations for the RSO here. So that is something we are having relatively for scheduling option. The next options we are having in the list is talking about connected field services. So whenever we are saying that we are working with the field service application, Microsoft is allowing us to connect that field service app and to integrate it with my multiple real-time environments, applications, what I'm having. Whether we are using the Microsoft tools, whether we are using any kind of third-party solutions, easily we can connect all those solutions with my Dynamics 365 field service here. That is the first thing. The second thing is that the field service will provide me a additional option to implement some IoT technologies. Like if I'm saying that I'm working with some products selling and also I'm providing some services to the customers on a regular basis, and I do wanted to work with a concept here in which I wanted to deploy some IoT device into the customer's physical location to monitor some sort of data. And according to that data, whenever I will find any kind of unusual thing, I do wanted to create a work order in my environment. And based on that, I wanted to send my respective field engineer onto that same locations within the time to resolve those issues. So if you wanted to opt for that concept, so the Microsoft is offering us a service here in this 365 field services, working with the app called Connected Field Service. It will easily going to help me to connect my IoT environments with my field service app so that we can receive the alerts from the IoT devices, and based on those alerts, we can create some cases, we can create some work orders and lots of other things. So using them, we can actually achieve a very good thing, and also we can increase our customer satisfactions while providing the services. And what kind of services we can opt for managing those IoT devices? So for them, we can opt two solutions from the Azure. The very first is going to be the Azure IoT Hub. So Azure IoT Hub is a platform as a solution service which is hosted in my Azure environment. From that environment, I can connect my endpoint IoT devices directly with them, and I can get the telemetry data to be transported using the IoT hub services. So this is the first thing. You can also go and utilize this one to send out some very, we can say, the defective alerts to the Dynamics environment based on which the work orders need to be created. So you can utilize the Azure IoT Hub to manage all those services, whether the data, whether in terms of retrieving the data from device to the cloud, or sending some sort of output to the device itself from the cloud area. Like sometimes I do wanted to run some sort of scripts on a remote basis to resolve the issues and so on. So we can also achieve that goal using this IoT hub scenarios. So we can create some scripts, we can run those scripts from my Dynamics portal, and the Dynamics will going to ask the IoT hub to send that telemetry data to the device. IoT hub will going to send that device the specific script, and then the IoT device will going to execute that script, and the issue can be resolved remotely also. So this is a one solution we can utilize. Other than the IoT hub, we can utilize a different solution provided by the Microsoft to us, talking about IoT Central. So IoT Central is a software as a solution service provided by the Microsoft to us. We can directly opt for that services. We can directly connect that services. We can directly send the telemetry data using the Power Automate to my Dynamics environment after reaching the limit thresholds and so on. And also in there, we can create some dashboards and visualizations also onto that same platform of Azure IoT Central. So these are the two services we can opt for working with the IoT related scenarios. The next thing which we are having in this area is talking about using the Power Platform with the field services. So whenever we are using a field services, we know that the field service app is a kind of a model driven app is present. Same way, the field service mobile app is also going to be an example for the model driven app. We can actually go for making any kind of change over to my model driven apps for showing the same results in my this service application, the field service application, or my field service mobile applications. The field service mobile apps are going to utilize some PCF controls for the bookings and also for some work order forms itself. Field service will going to make extensive use of plugins onto the work orders, resource requirements, and the bookings itself. The next thing is that field service increasingly going to use some Power Automate cloud flows for some automation things to be run in the background after having some sort of triggers and actions accordingly. You can also utilize the logic features which is present in the Dataverse to validate your data, whatever has been uploaded by your end users to your field service application in there. You can also go and create your own Power Automate cloud flows to integrate with your other systems. You can utilize the Dataverse workflows also to update the status in your tables or to send the respective emails to the customers itself after completing the work orders and so on. You can also go and create some Power Apps component framework itself to control the user interface experiences. You can also go and build some plugins to perform some business logics. So that is some things what we are having inside this specific course itself, that what are the things we need to cover before going to the examinations. So these are some topics against which we need to have a look and we need to study. Now we have some practice questions for it, but before going towards the practice question, if you guys have any kind of queries respectively the things we discussed till now, you can proceed with your queries on the chat box. Okay, so before moving forward with the practice questions, let's take a 15-minute break here, and then we'll continue with the question and answer session relatively for this field service application, where we are going to see how the questions are going to be coming in my real-time environment in the examinations. So let's take a 15-minute break here, and then we're going to come back again and going to discuss about the questions. Okay, welcome back again after the quick break. So now we are going to start discussing about some practice questions here. So let's have a look what is going to be our first question in this list. So we are going to have our very first question in this list here. And the question is asking that what should you use when replacing an assets on a service call? Is it going to be your first option of product family? Is it going to be the second option of inventory product? Is it going to be the option 3 non-inventory product? Or is it going to be the option D service? So now we can start the timer here, and I would request all of you to kindly go ahead and provide your answers on the chat. Okay, so time's up, and the correct answer for that specific assets things will going to be created under the inventory product. So the option B is going to be the right answer. Now the next question we are having in line is which price is going to be used if the product is not on the price list used on the work order. So let's have answers in the chat now. Let me start a timer for it. But the options are option 1 is no price, second one is default price list, third one is list price, and the fourth one is work order type price list. So let me start the timer here. Okay, so time's up, and the correct answer for that question is going to be the list price. So whatever the list price we are going to have against that work order, the same will going to be applicable. Now the next question we are having in line is what should you use if you need to apply federal and state taxes? Whether it's going to be your option 1 organizational unit, it's option 2 tax code, option 3 tax group, option D territory. So let me start the timer now, and let's have our answers on the chat. Okay, so the time's up, and the correct answer is option C. Whenever we need to create, actually apply the taxes for some federal and state taxes on both ways, so we need to create a tax group for them. Now the next question we are having in line is which two types of the following are associated with a work order type? Whether it's going to be your account, whether it's your incident type, whether it's your service task type, whether it's your price list. So let me start the timer and have the answers in the chat box. Okay, so the correct answer for that question is going to be answer B and D. That means incident type and price list. These two things can be associated with your work order type. Now we are having the next question in line. Let's say, what do you configure to indicate that you are waiting for a customer to confirm the details about a work order? Whether it's going to be your option one, booking status, option B, work order type, option C, work order status, option D, work order sub status. So let me just start the timer now and have your answers on the chat. Okay, so time's up, and the correct answer for that question is going to be the answer D, that we need to configure work order substatus to indicate that you are waiting for a customer. Okay, now we are having a next question in line talking about which of the following can you use to organize the customers and resources for scheduling. It's your option one, billing account, option two, incident type, option C, functional location, or option D, service territory. Let me start the timer here and let's get your answers on the chat. Okay, so time's up here, and the correct answer for that question is going to be option D, service territory. Now let's have a next question online. What is used to auto-populate a work order? Whether it is going to be your option A, customer asset, option B, incident type, option C, inspection template, or option D, work order type. So let me start the timer here and get your answers on the chat box. Okay, so the correct answer for that question is going to be option B, incident type. Now the next question we are having in line is, what is the work order status set to when the booking is set by the technician to completed? Option A, close posted, option B, open completed, option C, open in progress, or option D, open scheduled. So let me start the timer and have your answers on the chat box. Okay, so the correct answer for that question is going to be option B, open completed. The next question we are having in line is, what is not copied from an incident type to a work order? Whether it is your product, it is your resolution, is it your service, or is it your service task? So let me start the timer here and have your answers on the chat box. Okay, so the correct answer for that question is going to be option B. The resolution cannot be copied. Okay, so the next question we are having in line is, which two of the following can be color coded on the scheduled board? Whether it's your option A, booking status, option B, incident type, option C, priority, or option D, work order type. So let's have your answers on the chat and let me just start the timer for it. Okay, so the correct answer for that question is going to be option A and C. That means the booking status and the priority. The next question we are having in line is, what gets created immediately when you activate an agreement? Is it option A, booking dates, option B, booking journals, option C, invoices, and option D, work orders? So let's get your answers on the chat box and let me start the timer now. Okay, so the correct answer for that question is going to be option A, booking dates. The next question we are having in line is, which two of the following can you set on an agreement record? Whether it's going to be your price list, it's going to be your work order type, it's going to be your customer assets, or it's going to be your billing account. So let's have you guys answers on the chat and let me start the timer now. Okay, so the correct answer is going to be option A and D. That means the price list and the billing account. Now we are having a next question in line. What is used to create a timed notification on the schedule board? Whether it is going to be your booking alert, is it going to be your booking rule, is it going to be the web resource, or is it going to be the booking setup metadata? So let's get your answers on the chat now and let me start a timer for the same. Okay, so the correct answer is going to be option A, booking alert. The next question we are having in line is, if you need to only schedule the technicians who have been vetted by the customers for their work orders, what should you configure? Whether you will configure a booking rule, whether you will configure a characteristic, whether you will configure a requirement group, or you will configure resource preference. So let's get your answers on the chat and let me start a timer for the same. Okay, so the correct answer for that question is going to be option D, resource preference. Now we are having one more question in line, some more ors. This time it's saying some resources are only being booked occasionally. What should you do to make sure they are listed by the schedule assistant? So here are some options. Option A, enabling the auto geocode address in the field service settings. Option B, enable auto update booking travel in scheduling parameters. Option C, increase the default radius values in the scheduling parameters. Option D, increase the resource availability retrieval limit on booking setup metadata. So let's have your answers on the chat, and let me just quickly start the timer now. Okay, so the correct answer is going to be the option C. We need to increase the default radius value in scheduling parameter. The next question we are having in line is, if you need to schedule a resource a long distance from your normal service area, what will you do? Whether it's going to be the option A, add a fulfillment preferences to the work order. Option B, change the work location to the location agnostics on the work order. Set ignore travel time in the schedule assistant filter pane, or increase the radius in the schedule assistant filter panel. So let's get your answers in the chat box, and let me start this timer now. Okay, so the correct answer for that question going to be option C, set ignore travel time in the schedule assistant filter pane. The next question we are going to have in line is, you need to change the resource on a booking. How do you select an available resource with the matching skill for the same date and time? Whether it's by option A, assign, option B, book substitute, option C, move to, or option D, rebook. So let's get your answers on the chat now, and let me start the timer. Okay, so the correct answer for that question is going to be option B, book substitute. The next question we are having in line is, the schedule assistant does not find a resource. What are the two possible cause on the resource? Whether option A, start location is location agnostics, option B, ending location is location agnostics, option C, pay rate not set, option D, working hour templates not created, option E, warehouse not set, or option F, characteristics not added. So your answers on the chat, guys. Let me start the timer now. Okay, so the correct answer for that question is going to be option A and option F. That means yeah, either we didn't added the starting location or either we didn't added the characteristics. Now we are having a next question in line. What do you use to create a linked work order in the field service mobile app? Whether it's going to be the option A, follow-up, option B, inspection, option C, plus new. So let me start the timer now and have your answers on the chat, guys. Okay, so the correct answer for that question is going to be option A, follow-up. The next question we are having in line is, what does the field technician set on in an inspection to the report on the overall inspection? Whether it's option A, complete percentage, option B, mark result, or option C, result. Let's have your answers on the chat, guys, and let me start my timer now. Okay, so the correct answer for that question is going to be option B, mark complete. Now we are having another question in line. It's talking about where is the inspection run from in the field service mobile app? Is it option A, bookable resource booking, option B, service, option C, service task, option D, work order? So let's get your answers on the chat, guys, and let me start my timer. Okay, so the correct answer for that question is going to be option C, service task. The next question we are having in line is, you need to configure the field service mobile app so field technicians should only see the current day and the next day's booking. So what would you do? Option A, configure the sync filters for bookable resource booking. Option B, define filter rule for bookable resource booking in offline profile. Option C, define filter rule for work orders in offline profile. Is it option D, enable server side synchronization? So let's get your answers on the chat and let me start my timer now. Okay, so the correct answer is going to be option B, defining filter rule for bookable resource booking in offline profile. Now, the next question we are having in line is, you need to launch a Canvas app from the field service mobile app. What should you use? Is it option A, deep linking? Is it option B, geofencing? Is it option C, notification? Is it option D, web resource? Your answers on the chat, guys. And let me start the timer now. Okay, so the correct answer for that question is going to be option A, deep linking. Now we are having a next question in line talking about if you create a new offline profile for the field service mobile app, to which two components do you add the profile? Is it option A, app designer, option B, Power Platform Admin Center, option C, resource, option D, user? So let's get your answers on the chat and let me start the timer now. Okay, so the correct answer is going to be for that question is app designer and user. Okay, so we are having a next question here. What must be enabled to use barcode scanning in my field service app? Is it option A, Bing Map, option B, data search, option C, deep linking, or option D, location tracking? Let's get your answers on the chat and let me just start my timer. Okay, so the correct answer for that question is going to be option B, dataverse search. Now we are having another question here. You use the GPS devices on the technicians' vehicles to track their locations. How are they displayed on the map view in the scheduled board? Whether it's option A, colored circle, colored pin, or truck icon. So let's get your answers on the chat and let me start at my timer here. Okay, so the correct answer for that question is going to be the truck icon. The next question we are having in line is, what should you configure to send the push notifications to the field service mobile app? Whether it's your option A, booking rule, option B, classic workflow, option C, deep linking, option D, power automate cloud flow. So let's get your answers on the chat and let me start my time now. Okay, so the correct answer for that question is going to be option D, power automate cloud flow. So let me move ahead with another question here. So the next question is, where do you add a guide? Your answers are option A, incident type, option B, service task type, option C, work order, option D, work order type. So let's get your answers on the chat and let me start my timer now. Okay, so the correct answer for that question is going to be option B, service task type. Let's move ahead now. So we are having another question in this list. What do you use to share your camera to consult with a vendor about an issue at the customer's site? Whether it's a option A, field service mobile app, option B, guides, option C, remote assist one-time call, option D, product visualize. So what will going to be the right answer? Let's have your answers on the chat and let me start my timer now. Okay, so the correct answer for that question is going to be option C, remote assist one-time call. The next question we are having in line is, you need to prevent a work order product from being used. There are none available. What should you set? Option A, purchase order approval required. Option B, use of product out of stock. Option C, default warehouse. Option D, auto allocate estimate products. Let's have your answers on the chat and let me start my timer now. Okay, so the correct answer for that question is going to be, we can set up the use of product out of stock. The next question we are having in line is, you create a purchase order from a work order that requires a product out of stock. What should you create when the product is delivered? Whether it's going to be your option 1, inventory adjustment, option B, purchase order bill, option C, purchase order receipt, or option D, RMA, that means the return purchase requisition. So your answer, let's get your answers on the chat and let me start my timer now. Okay, so the correct answer for that question is going to be option C, purchase order receipt. The next question we are having in line is, what should you use to handle breakage of a product in your warehouse? Whether it's going to be option A, inventory adjustment, option B, inventory transfer, option C, purchase order, or option D, RTV. So let's get your answers on the chat and let me start my timer now. Okay, so the correct answer for that question is going to be option A, inventory adjustment. Okay, so next question we are having in line is, what should you create first when you return a product from a customer site? Whether it's going to be your option A, inventory adjustment, option B, RMA, option C, RMA receipt, option D, RTV. So let's get your answers on the chat and let me start the timer now. Okay, so the correct answer for that question is going to be option B, that we do need to create the RMA thing. Now let's have a next question. What should the field technician set when installing a product at a customer site? Whether it's a option A, inventory transfer, option B, line status, option C, mark complete, option D, work order status. Your answers on the chat, please, and let me start the timer now. Okay, so the correct answer for that question is going to be option B, line status. Okay, so the next question we are having in line is, customer assets are linked to IoT devices by which of them? Is it a connection? Is it a many-to-many relationship? Is it a many-to-one relationship? Is it one-to-many relationship? Let's get your answers on the chat, and let me start my timer now. Okay, so the correct answer for that question is going to be option A, connection. The next question we are having in line is, how do you group the customer assets? Options are option A, asset category, option B, asset property, option C, device category, option D, parent assets. So let's get your answers on the chat, and let me start the timer now. Okay, so the correct answer for that question is going to be option A, assets category. Now, the next question we are having in line is, you create an assets hierarchy with 3 levels. What links a level 3 asset with the level 1 assets at the top of the hierarchy? Is it going to be the asset category? Is it going to be the master asset? Is it going to be the parent asset? Is it going to be the product? So let's get your answers on the chat, and let me start my timer now. Okay, so the correct answer for that question is going to be the master assets here. The next question we are having in line is, which two fields must be changed to automatically create a customer assets from a work order? Is it going to be a booking status? Is it going to be the field service product type? Is it going to be the line status? Is it going to be the work order status? So let's get your answers on the chat, and let me start my timer now. Okay, so the correct answer for that question is going to be option C and D. That means the line status and work order status. Next question we are having in that thing is, what is the used to assist the technicians in finding an asset at a customer's site? Whether it is an agreement, is it a functional location? Is it a inspection template? Is it a location tracking? So let's get your answers on the chat and let me start the timer now. Okay, so the correct answer is going to be your option B, functional location. Next question we are having in line is 3D models are connected to which option? Is it account? Is it a customer asset? Is it IoT device? Is it a work order? So let's get your answers here. Let me start my timer now. Okay, so the correct answer for that question is going to be option B, customer asset. Now we are having another question in line. Which two forms can register a device with Azure IoT? Is it going to be your customer assets, IoT device, service account, or work order? So let's get your answers on the chat and let me start my timer now. Okay, so the correct answer for that question is going to be option A and option B. Is it customer assets or IoT devices? The next question we are having in line is, which two Azure services can connect the field services be deployed to? Is it option A, Azure IoT Central? Option B, Azure IoT Device Provisioning Services. Option C, Azure IoT Hub. Or option D, Azure IoT Sphere. So let's get your answers on the chat box and let me start the timer now. Okay, so the correct answer for that question is going to be option A and option C. Option A is Azure IoT Central and option C is Azure IoT Hub. The next question we are having in line is, what should you use to allow a customer to manage their bookings? Is it going to be the option A, customer experience portal? Is it going to be the option B, customer self-service portal? Is it going to be option C, resource scheduling optimization? Is it option D, universal resource scheduling? So let's get your answers on the chat and let me start my timer now. Okay, so the correct answer for that question is going to be option A, customer experience portal. The next question we are having in line is, what must you configure to allow the users to create bookings in the customer experience portal? Is it going to be option A, incident type? Is it going to be option B, service account? Is it going to be option C, work order type? So let's get your answers on the chat and let me start the timer now. Okay, so the correct answer for that question is going to be option A, incident type. Now let's have a next question in line. What do you use to customize the field service Dynamics 365 mobile app? Whether it's option A, Microsoft Intune, option B, Power Apps Maker Portal, option C, Visual Studio Code, option D, Woodford. So let's get your answers on the chat and let me just start the timer now. Okay, so the correct answer for that question is going to be option B, Power Apps Maker Portal. Let's move ahead and talk about another question now. Next question is talking about which two tables must have one-to-many relationship with a table that uses universal resource scheduling. Option A, bookable resource booking. Option B, resource requirement. Option C, resource, or option D, work order. So let's get your answers on the chat and let me start the timer now. Okay, so the correct answer for that question is going to be option A and B, bookable resource booking and resource requirement. Let's get another question now. What type of columns should you add to restrict the booking status values for a universal resource scheduling that enabled the table? So your options are option A, choice, option B, lookup, option C, whole number, and option D, yes or no. So let's get your answers on the chat and let me start the timer now. Okay, so the correct answer for that question is going to be option A, that is choice. The next question we are having in line is, which table do you customize to add list of unscheduled records for table A to the schedule boards? Is it going to be option A, bookable resource booking, option B, incident type, option C, resource requirement, or option D, table A? So let's get your answers on the chat and let me start a timer now. Okay, so the correct answer for that question is going to be option C, resource requirement. Now we are having a next question in line talking about what is used to generate time entries for completed work orders. Is it option A, actuals on bookable resource booking? Option B, booking timestamps? Option C, booking journals? Or option D, work order service task? So let's get your answers on the chat box and let me start the timer now. Okay, so the correct answer for that question is going to be option C, booking journals. Now, the next question we are having in line is, what should you use to collect feedback from the customer on a technician's performance? Is it you can utilize the customer insight, customer service, customer voice, or Microsoft form? So let's get your answers on the chat and let me start the timer now. Okay, so the correct answer is going to be option C, customer voice. Now, the next question we are having in line is, what should you use to send a feedback survey to a customer when a work order is closed? Option A, Azure Logic App. Option B, Classic Workflow. Option C, Customer Voice. Option D, Power Automate. So let's get your answers on the chat and let me start the timer now. Okay, so the correct answer for that question is going to be option D, Power Automate. Now, the next question we are having in line is, what should you use to analyze the customer feedback by work type? Is it option A, Canvas app? Is it option B, customer voice? Is it option C, Dataverse charts and dashboards? Is it option D, model driven app? Or option E, Power BI report? So let's get your answers on the chat and let me start the timer now. Okay, so the correct answer for that question is going to be option E, Power BI report. Now, the next question we are having in the line is, what should you use to populate the resource requirement for a universal resource scheduling enabled table? So option A, booking setup metadata, business process flow. business rule, or power automate cloud flow? Let's get your answers on the chat and let me start the timer now. Okay, so the correct answer for that question is going to be option D, power automate cloud flow. Okay, so that is something what we are having relatively for exam prep session of this MB-240. Now, if we'll talk about that, if you guys ever wanted to attain any kind of other exam prep sessions from our side, you can actually go there into the websites of GTechLearn Private Limited /webinar.aspx, and from that area you can actually go and find out all the free webinars that we are hosting relatively for the different kind of courses in here, and you can register yourself for free. Also, you can scan this QR code using your Google scanner and you can register yourselves for the respective webinars. Apart from them, if we'll talk about that where we can actually find those free course material for this MB-240 course. So let me start my environment, and here you guys need to come and write it down the course code MB-240, and then you need to just write it down here called Microsoft Learn. Once you will enter, after writing down this button, here is the link is going to be available, the first one relatively for your MB-240 certification. And here, if you will scroll down the page, you can see about the skill measures, and also you can select the way to prepare. If you wanted to prepare it on your own, you can come to this online free area, and here the learning paths are going to be available. So every time you wanted to start learning yourselves on a free note, you can actually go and select the things accordingly. I would say that I do wanted to just learn about this implementing Microsoft Dynamics 365 field service app. So I can click on this start button. After clicking on this start button, you can see we are having multiple modules to be discussed under that topic. So I can select the respective modules against which I need to learn. It's going to open me the docs link for that module. And here you can see this is going to be my activity. So I can start with my first activity in here, and then the content is going to be written. We can start learning it from here. There are some videos are going to be available in that place. We can watch those videos. Also in that same area, we're going to have some exercises. So you can also follow these steps to complete your hands-on experiences with your MB-240 field service app itself. And here the steps are going to be written. Also, it's going to written you about the scenario, what you guys are going to do in here and how to do them. And also there are some images are present so that you can easily find out the options which the step is asking you to find from the field service app. Apart from them, you will also find a check your knowledge session here. So after completing each and every unit and exercise of that unit, you will find this check your knowledge session area where some sample questions are going to be present. You can just go and answer those questions and have a look how much you have prepared till now. So this is are different types of ways to prepare yourself for the 240 examinations in here. So that is all do we have from our sites in here. I hope you guys enjoyed the sessions, and thanks everyone for joining this session here. So now we're going to close this session, and thank you once again everyone for doing so.